Boom, what's up, y'all? Welcome to the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Big up to the early regular crew who's in the building. Spook Realm 4Q, you are in your usual position as number one on the chat today. Since you are, let's do the PSA. Rule number one, and the most important rule, get the book. The link is in the description below. My brother's name is Kenny. If you don't have the book, get the book. Rule number two, please give a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm bring more like-minded people to the channel. And we're going to shout out Tracy, who always reminds us this is really the Tracy thumbs up button. And last but not least, big up to the mighty, massive Rewind crew who's going to check this out later on. And let me jump. We got a super chat right in the early. Abel Valdez, what it do? Thank you so much. Uh, Let me make this a little bit bigger so I can see. And Tracy says, hit the like. I see that. Kenneth Smith, what up? B-Bull Jones, and what up? Um, Gregory Nettis, what up? KP, the NBA free agency carousel has been interesting. Yeah, what has been some of the best signings? Where do you see LBJ going? LBJ, the circus. I think Cleveland or Golden State, it looks like, but you don't know with this guy. Um, did y'all see the kind of money that they just gave Donovan Mitchell? He signed a 4-year extension. Excellent player, probably second team, or I think he's second team or NBA level player. Next year, he's going to make, next 4 years, they gave him 4-year deal, 60, 65 million, 70, and 75 million in the next 4 years. Now, people are thinking that the Lakers overpaid for Austin Reeves. Based on what Austin Reeves has numbers that he put up, I'm going to say that that 40 million a year in a minute is going to look not that expensive for Austin Reeves based on what some of the other players in his uh in his uh in his production range is getting. That's a lot of money. Um 75 million a year. Ridiculous. Um of course the Giannis trade is, it's going to be very interesting over in Miami. I still think they're going to have trouble scoring, even with Giannis and Bam. They basically do the same thing, so it's going to be a log jam there. I'm not sure about that. I'm not terrified of Miami. I thought that the Lakers made a good move again with that Wessler guy. Overpaid a little bit more for him with picks, but. And I'm going to assume that all the players we're talking about are basically going to be healthy and do what they normally do the past seasons. And that Kessler guy can be a real difference for the Lakers. Of course, Jaylen Brown, to me, that's probably the most interesting trade. On paper, that Sixers team should be loaded, man. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but that Sixers team looks a little scary. Um, And of course, it always ends up being a minor trade that ends up being the big one at the end of the season. But these are the moves that I've seen so far. There's probably a few I'm not paying attention to, but off the top of my head, the big splashy moves that look very interesting. I think the Knicks are going to miss Mitchell Robinson. And I think Mitchell Robinson on the Celtics, I think Mitchell Robinson is the type of guy who needs to be in the right situation to look as valuable as he does. And I don't know if he's going to look as valuable on the Celtics. It remains to be seen. Um, I think the Knicks are going to miss him. I like Drummond, but something about Mitchell Robinson. You know what it is? There's guys that you don't have to involve them in the offense for them to be productive. Those kind of guys who do a lot of other things and they're always in the right position so they can get you 10 points without you having to run anything for them. And they have the right mentality. See, when you have volume scorers on your team, like a Brunson, you need guys on the team who are willing to sacrifice and make sure that these guys get shots without pouting in the locker room. That's what makes a guy like Josh Hart very valuable. He does a lot of things and he shoots when he's open, but he gets the ball to the guys who need to shoot. It's very important to have guys who understand their role. And I think Mitchell Robinson was one of them guys. And that remains to be seen. Um, Henry Cedillo, what up? Rod Justice, what up? Uh, yeah, Rod Justice. R.I.P. Sparky D. It's been a few weeks since one of our hip hop family has passed away, and I always say it seems like it's every week. Um, Legendary female artist from the mid '80s, mostly known for her battles with Shantae live on stage. They used to go at it all the time. Sparky D was down with Red Alert. I think I met Sparky D maybe once, twice. She was cool with KRS. I didn't really know her like that, but I've seen her around. Um, I think I saw her last summer somewhere. I was like, "Is that Sparky D? It looks like her." But I didn't say anything, but it kind of looked like her. Um, but yeah, rest in peace to Sparky D, another one of our hip hop family down, and condolences to her family. Rod Justice, today in hip hop history, Dougie Fresh released his debut album, Oh My God, July 7, 1986. Yeah, that's the album that had nothing, nothing, nothing. That record was ridiculous. You ain't really doing nothing. Dope record. Uh, Let me jump down a little bit, get some more shouts. Sydney Rhodes, what up? Rosmel, what up? Supreme Divine, haven't seen you in a minute. What's good? Dre Stack Dollars, what up? Shout out to Joe Cleasy, who used to out rap half the rappers who came on the show. Yes, and I was trying to work with Joe Cleasy. I had an independent record deal in '97 ish, 98, 97, 98. And I was trying to work with Joe Cleese, but it didn't work out because my stuff wasn't all together. I was doing some other stuff, but I really wanted to produce Joe Cleese, put some music under his beat, under his rhymes, and see how it worked out. Um, but yeah, shout out to him. MK Ultra, what up? Dre Stack Dollars, what up? Shout out to Redman for using Hey DJ in his cuts, slide and rock on. That's random, but I love Hey DJ and I love the world famous Supreme Team. And I had asked C Divine, the guard, to come on the channel, and he agreed, but his manager said no. And so it got squashed. But I really wanted to talk to him. Joey Joe, what up? Um, Latrice Washington, what's good? Haven't seen you in a minute. Um, Silk Child, much love, KP. You already know. Like, share, support a brother. Thank you. Everybody jumping on that Kane Curtain Call beat now. He's done started something. Yeah, I think I just saw Talib Kweli jump on that. That beat is dope, by the way. I like how it's moving. That's a dope concept too. Put a beat out there and challenge MCs to jump on. Dope concept. Shout out to the Big Father. I forgot what his name. What is it? Dark Gable. Uh, Greg Ness is the greatest trick LeBron James ever pulled is to convince the world that he's a better basketball player than Michael Jordan. You're right. I don't think he convinced the world though. He convinced enough people though. MMA Crossfire, what up? Danielle the Don Freeman, what up? Do you ever think Chris will do some shows in Africa? No, because he doesn't fly. So a cruise ship to Africa would probably take a month. Unless he wants to jump on the ship for a month. I don't know. Um, let's see. I'm a little behind, not too terrible. Um, Harvey Lee, what up? I'm not familiar with this hype style. Peace salute, Kenny Parker. Peace to the chat room. We need to talk about this Mississippi situation and the young man who died and possibly got ended. Horrible times to be a young black man. Well, it's always in America. It's always been horrible times to be a young black man. But I think there's ebbs and flows. But um, I'm not too familiar with the situation. I've seen some things, but I have to do a little more research on it. Um, but once you say Mississippi, there's places in America, the deep South, that is still, you're talking about the great, great, great grandchildren of Confederates. So it's real, be strong down there if you live in the South, man. Riding Dirty Face, what up? Hey, Bel Valdez says, Peace Crew, I'm on a bus in Spain. 2 a.m. headed back to Airbnb heading back to the Airbnb running of the Bulls. Oh, that's dope. I was just in Spain a month and a half ago. Nice. Samuel Gervais, what up? Cutie Pie, what's up? D Nizzy. Linson Franklin, what's up from Tallahassee, T-Pain Town, Florida? Um, A Valdez says TR-808 is coming bright and early in the morning. That was a dope promo that KRS and Scott did with D Nice for Red Alert. I think D Nice remixed it for his album. Philly Sheed, what up? VHS Hip Hop, what up? T. Dyson says that's too much for Mitchell. He's a second tier star at best. What's second tier? The second team or NBA would consider second tier? I don't know. He did not do well in the playoffs. Then again, a few first tier stars did not play well in the playoffs this year, but they're still first team NBA stars. I think 60 and 70 is too much for just about anybody right now. Jalen Brunson was second team NBA, and he right now ascended to first tier star based on his play in the playoffs. That's a lot of money. And you also got to say that sets the pace now because, wait till SGA and these people, the Joker's up in 2 years, you know, when these people become free agents, so look out, look out. And it's not even them. Like you say, that second tier, the Cade Cunninghams and the Jalen Browns, Tatums, and all these people, when they become eligible, they're going to be looking for that kind of money now. That set the tone. Um, Even down the list, that, that's a lot of money, y'all. But I ain't mad at Donovan Mitchell. Get your money, man. Hold on. Anyway, what up? This is a very open-ended question. I don't even know how to answer this. KP, who do you think is the greatest American hero? I'm gonna go mainstream America because if you look at that, you gotta look at like the founding fathers. The George Washingtons and Thomas Jeffersons. In some ways, you could look at them as great American heroes, but if you're black, you look at them as slave owners. For me, I don't know how. I don't know if I can have a slave owner as an American hero for me. But for the mainstream America, I would put George Washington or Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is the way up there, I'd imagine. Those guys that you would see on Money. Um, in modern times, Kennedy had the potential to be great. He got cut short. Um, Martin Luther King Jr., for what he represented, for the changes that he helped make in this country for African Americans. Um, for me, he would be way up there. My guy is Malcolm X, but he was sort of not on that level with those guys. But that's my guy. Um, I might go Dr. King based on what he stood for. Yeah, for me. But that's a tricky question. T. Dicey says Mitchell is too short and shouldn't be any team's number one guy. Well, you sound like Becky Hammond, my favorite female basketball player of all time. But um, wait, dude puts up what he put up? 28? He put up 28 a game for a two seed? And what they weren't a two seed, they were a four seed. What was it? Detroit? Where was Boston? No, the Knicks were a three seed. Cleveland might have been a four seed. 28 a game on a four seed is tough. How many people are really worth 60 and 70 million? You have to be in the right at the top of the league. There's a handful based on the money that's being given out now. But if LeBron goes there, that'd be interesting. James Harden is there. I don't know. Y'all know how I feel about Harden. Crazy money for Mitchell. Yeah, I would say so. Um, let's say Donovan Mitchell is the same player he was last year. That might be too much. Joey Joe says, I like the way Kenny says algorithm. Yeah. Mass holes want to destroy the city over Jaylen Brown being traded to Philly. I don't that's a head scratcher. I think they didn't want to pay him. How influential was DC Go-Go to New York hip hop? Somewhat. I think Marley Marl and Herbie Lovebug sampled New York Go-Go in their beats in the mid 80s, late 80s. So it was in the mix when sampling started. There's a couple of go-go break beats like pump, 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 pump it up. Chick, 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 chick. That was like a beat, a break everybody scratched. Criminal Minded had go-go in there. The song Criminal Minded had that bunch, anch, 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 ah, is go-go. It was influential, yeah. Some big songs had go-go in it, sampling wise. Omni Hassan, what up? Original CMC, you already know. Let's see. Platform. Hey, what's good, KP? Glad it's Tuesday for your show today. Want to ask you if you have any stories with DJ Cash Money and Marvelous from Philadelphia. I think that's a no. I've met Cash Money. I think Cash Money just was DJing for KRS like last year, but I never met him. I mean, no, I'm bugging. I met him, but I don't have any stories. Humor says, did you get your first set of turntables from Crazy Eddie? No, I got my first set of turntables from KRS. Now, where he got them from, there's a place, I think he used to go to either Sam Ash in New York City, or there used to be this place called the Music Factory on 42nd Street. Chris used to go there and get a lot of stuff. But I think Sam Ash is where the turntables were. Hype Style says, blessings to Sparky D. Yes. FU2, what it do? Let me scroll down a little bit. All right, Compo, what's up, KP? What all goes into making one of those compilation albums like Tony Touch or Frankie Cutlass used to do? A budget? I mean, seemed like there was a time when all of the DJs were doing these albums. Tony Touch had Toka had one, and Flex had a few. DJ Clue, um, I think Red Alert, Marley. No, Mr. Magic had one back in like the mid '80s, and Red Alert had one. And it's just a matter of compiling songs, and if you have a budget to get all of these songs together. Um, I've never done one, so and I've never been involved in one, so I don't really know for sure. But um, I think it's a matter of same as like putting a movie soundtrack together, getting songs, and if you have a budget to pay the artists. Def Rocker, what up? China Doll, what up, Sid? Greetings, dopest chat around. Thank you, Cynthia. Um, that reminds me, a new Epic Fail will be dropping tomorrow. Hope you guys enjoy it. Omni Hassan, I get it. We don't really do whack here, but that Damon Dash song, Cinnamon Doodle, is whack. I have not heard about it. Oh, Dame, what's going on, Dame? Mm. I just don't know what to say. Verse Pro, what up? I'm a black man in Florida and I'm fine. Blessings. Blessings, man. KB Play, thank you so much for your contribution to the channel. Rick Rubin sampled Go-Go Band Trouble Funk for LL's Rock the Bells. I didn't know that. Rock the Bells. Yeah, I can hear the Go-Go in now that you mentioned it. He might have been the first. Sampling wasn't even sampling like that back then, but it was like they were throwing in the records on time with the beat. But yeah, did not know that. But now that you mentioned it, I could hear Go Go and Rock the Bells. That was the hardest record out. When Rock the Bells dropped, I remember that year, 85. Dougie Fresh and Slick Rick, Lottie Dottie, the show, which I think is the greatest hip hop 12-inch of all time. The show on the front, Lottie Dottie on the back, B-side, was ruling in New York. And then after that, the next thing was Rock the Bells. Ridiculous. And then I think Nightmares, Dana Dane was the big record after that, if I recall. People, Mitchell is definitely a top tier player. He averaged like 25 plus for several seasons now. 25 plus Imagine that's what Austin Reeves averages, and everybody's crying. Um, well, before Austin Reeves got hurt, he was averaging 28 actually. And everybody was crying about his 40 million. And oh, he doesn't play big in the playoffs or whatever. And now Mitchell is making way more than him. Um, I don't know if he's top tier. Top tier to me would be a top 5, 6 player right now. I think he's like more like a 8, 9 type ish. Borderline. 65. Did you hear the numbers? 60, 65, 70, and 75 in 4 years. Guaranteed. They went all in. Crazy. Crazy. Ansel Kennedy says Trouble Funk was that crank. Chuck Brown, REEU, Hot Cold Sweat, etc. DC Stand Up. Stand Up DC. We didn't really listen to Go-Go like that in New York, but we, like I mentioned before on the channel, we did a few shows with Go-Go bands. Um, I remember Heather B, shout out to Heather B, when her song All Glocks Down was out, she did a show in Washington, D.C., and I went to that show, and she performed with a go-go band. And so to hear my track in a go-go style with Heather rapping was crazy. I just listened like, yo, what is this? Shout out to Go-Go. One of my favorite hip hop tracks to sample Go-Go was Salt and Pepper, I'll Take Your Man, dope tune. Absolutely, JT. I believe Cool G Rap wrote that record. That record was dope. That album was dope. I Desire was dope too. I think Cool G Rap wrote that too. It's a shame what Dame Dash has become. Being a businessman to talk about business to being a chatty patty, jumping shark, and being a lame rapper. He's rapping on that song. Wow. Um, I don't like disrespecting people on this channel. I don't know Damon Dash, but it's just yeah, from being a mogul. And you gotta understand too that a lot of these big podcasts, they pay people to come on there. Big money. So I would imagine a Dame Dash on your platform is he's getting paid money. So this might be his way of eating, doing podcasts. But you gotta understand when they pay you, they expect you to say something controversial, something that could be clickbait to get a lot of views. Um, that's why you find a lot of these guys doing all the rounds and be regulars on these channels saying outlandish things because you have to justify them paying you. Not saying Dame Dash get paid. I don't know him, but I know what's going on in the podcast business is huge right now. So much so that it's worth paying a few G's to have somebody come on there if they're going to say something crazy because of the traffic that it brings. But yeah, you would think somebody of his magnitude would have been more successful. It reminds me of the rhyme Jay-Z said, people saying they made Hove. Okay, make another Hove. And this goes back to my hatred. I'm going to use the word hatred of record company people. And I'm going to throw these big managers and moguls in the mix too. Not singling any one person out, but just in general. A lot of these guys gaslight you into believing that they are Barry Gordy or somebody, but in reality, they have a once in a lifetime product. And if you subtract this product from these people, most of the time you never hear from them again. You know, look at Matthew Knowles. Not disrespecting. I'm in no position to disrespect Matthew Knowles, but he had a once in a lifetime product that he groomed. But when that product left him, you never heard from him again. So much so that even with Kelly Rowland, he had Kelly Rowland and couldn't pop her off. She popped off after she left. I look at these things because when people try to tell me how dope they are as a manager, and I'm saying, um, are you really that dope? To me, if you're really that dope, make another Hove. If it was all about you. There are some people that are very fortunate to have been connected by whatever way to certain artists. Very fortunate. And their legacy is inflated based on that. I'm gonna leave it at that before I get in trouble. Um, Silk Child, thank you. LL, I'm bad contained a sample of Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse. I used to love Courageous Cat and Minute Mouse too, by the way. That's when that was on the tail end of the TV themes. Um, I'm bad was I liked I'm bad. My hat is like a shark's fin. Shout out to LL Cool J. Yo, L, why don't you come on the channel? I have no information on LL. Last time I spoke to LL Cool J had to be 2000 and something, oh something. I went to his album listening party for an album he was dropping. I mean, he seemed surprised when I walked in, and I was sitting there just listening to the music. And we spoke briefly. He's always been nice to me. Uh, would love to talk to LL. He also seems like a very good um, interviewee. Some people, it seems like you got to drag information out of them, and these short answers. And then some people are very engaging, and LL is very engaging. I like that about him. Um, let's see. Let me move down a little bit. How far behind am I? Not too bad. Not too bad. Uh, FE2 says the NBA has to split the money with the players 50-49. So if the players are getting 50 to 70 a year, then the teams are getting way more than that. Absolutely. The guy who writes the check, there's a difference between rich and wealthy. I saw somebody said Shaquille O'Neal is rich. The guy who writes Shaquille O'Neal's check is wealthy. But yeah, the new CBA did wonders for the NBA and WNBA too. There's so much money in this, man, with the streaming and stuff. DC Go-Go is different. Yeah, I don't really understand. You know what's crazy about the funniest thing to you about Go-Go? It's not even the music, it's watching the crowd do that movement that they do to Go-Go. It's like the whole crowd, heads moving this movement. And you just sit there and look at it like, what is this? And it's crazy because New York was the crime and ending people capital of America for a long time, decades, and then DC just said, you know what, we got this, and became number one. And I can't imagine dudes from DC, dangerous dudes in the party doing that go-go dance. in between all the stuff that they was doing that made them number one. Crazy. Um, Donovan Mitchell didn't even shoot 50% from the field. 50% from the field is very difficult, though, for a guard. You expect a guard, especially a guard, a high volume shooter who takes tough shots. They're not going to shoot 50%. That's Michael Jordan, Kobe type territory. That's why they who they are. Um, but you expect high 40s. I don't know what he shot, but the market says you got to pay Donovan Mitchell, man. And he took the money. He could have waited and become a free agent. He said, "No, I'll take this money right now. I'm good. Give me this money right now for this extension." So that means no matter what you do, um, you got to pay him, no matter how it turns out. Kenneth Smith, he's rapping on that track. Wow, it says it all. I'm crying, laughing right now. I haven't heard Dame Dash. I haven't heard the song, so I don't know. FE2 says top 20 players in the NBA are making 50 to 70 mil nowadays. Doesn't really matter what they did in the playoffs or their field goal percentage. Pretty much, you got to pay these guys to compete. Yeah, if a guy could get you 20 something points a game, you got to pay him. T Dash, was Dame Dash really a businessman? He just took advantage of his connections to Jay Z and leveraged it to get deals. Jay Z just smartened up and dumped that dead weight. I don't know. Let's look at that, T Dyson. What the question is, was Dame Dash really a businessman? Now you got to understand Dame Dash was down with Jay before Jay-Z was big. When Jay-Z could not get arrested, Dame and Jay-Z and Biggs, don't forget Biggs, who had the money, who had street money to put behind it, ended up doing their own deal, their own uh, ownership independent deal with Freeze Records slash Priority that allowed us to get Reasonable Doubt. And once they had Reasonable Doubt doing very well in New York, Def Jam picked it up. Now, they could have made a bad deal and said, okay, Def Jam wants to pick up our album, let's sign to Def Jam. They say, we're not signing to Def Jam, we're doing a partnership splits with Def Jam. That's a great business move. Now, they came with Rockaware clothes. Other people had clothes. Puff was big with the clothes. Sean John had took off. There were other urban clothing lines. Even Naughty had clothes and Wu-Tang had clothes. So that wasn't like a new idea, but when they were hot, they made Rockaware hot. They had vodka, whatever the drinks were. They weren't first with these deals, but they took advantage, like you said, when his connection to Jay. But it wasn't like Jay was the man and then he jumped on. They rolled together. And I always say, to me, on the outside looking in, that Dame is a guy that could get you to the 50, 60 millions, maybe even close to 100. But after that, that next level, when you start chasing hundreds of millions and billions, the rooms that Jay-Z needed to be in, Dame couldn't be there because of the way he did business wouldn't work in these rooms, in my opinion, from what I hear. Um, he was a businessman selling a once in a lifetime product, and that's my argument. There's plenty of dope businessmen that if they were selling what everybody else was selling, you wouldn't notice them. Now, a real dope businessman, like they say, could sell ice water to an Eskimo, right? The real great businessmen not only can make money in a field where it's very competitive, but also they keep finding more ways and more artists. Um, Dame believed in Kanye West. I think that's probably his second biggest achievement. No, they didn't want to sign. They wanted to sign Kanye as a producer. Then again, Kanye kind of forced their hand because he made Through the Wire by himself and kind of marketed it by himself. And then when it started bubbling, then it was like, yo, let's give him the deal. So even that, I don't know, but Dame did see the value in Kanye. That was huge. Um, I don't know how he found state property. I don't know how that worked out, but Dame signed them. Um, but it all revolves around Jay. Once Jay left the equation, it seemed like Dame didn't have anything else to offer. I mean, he was behind some movie guys, I think, or whatever, but um, I wouldn't call him dead weight. I think that's a diss. I just think that they reached a level where they couldn't go any further. What Jay was what Jay was trying to do, and the people that were in Jay's ear convinced him to leave Dame. And Jay went on to make he's approaching 3 billion, and Dame is bankrupt. So I don't know. KP Dame says his artist is the lesbian Aaliyah. Wow. Well, let's see. Let's see. There's quite a few people. I know. I'll tell y'all a story, but I'm not going to say who it was. But I know a guy who was dating a very famous R&B singer. I'll leave that hint there. And I saw him. I had known him from way back in the 80s, but this was in like 2000 and something. And I was with him in a club just talking to him, and his phone was just going off, going off. And he's sitting there like, oh man, all these people just keep calling me, man. And he's just like this and like looking at his phone. These people just keep calling me, all these people. I remember thinking to myself, well, they're not really calling you. They're calling you because you are connected to this singer. You are dating her and managing her. The minute you stop dating this singer, nobody's gonna call you. This is what I'm thinking in my head as he's talking. And sure enough, when he broke up with this singer, have not heard from him ever again. He had a once in a lifetime product. Be careful how dope you think you are. Um, Let me move on a bit. I like this Damon Dash talk. I've run in circles with people that know him. I don't know him, but if you're in the music business, you heard a lot about him. FE2 says I saw a clip of Matthew Knowles in a new interview a few days ago. Sure, Matthew. I mean, you can talk, but were you really that dope businessman? I mean, they had to have had some ability, but I'm saying, um, how come when this person leaves you, you just disappear off the face of the earth? You had you had the personal cell phone number to every record exec, every manager in the world in your phone. And all of a sudden, overnight, nobody wants to speak to you and you can never get back. I don't know. KP, did you try to tell LL what singles he should have? No, I did not in my conversations with when I was at the listening thing, no, I did not. He had a song that 50 Cent produced that I thought was dope. And I mentioned that to him that I thought this record was dope. That's it. Look at Suge Knight after Pac. The great move Suge did, well, he partnered with Dre to help Dre get out of his contract with Easy. He used his street muscle to get Dre out of the deal with Ruthless Records. And then he used his muscle, along with that lawyer, David Kenner, to set up deals and shop deals and build Death Row, the label. But the real meat behind Death Row was Dre. But the slick part was getting Tupac out of jail was a great move. Nobody wanted to touch Tupac. Tupac was sitting in jail with the #1 album in America, and nobody wanted to touch him, not even his own record label. And Suge got him out of jail on a very favorable deal. But the day after Tupac passed, what has Suge really done since then? Gigantic mogul. I always give credit to Puff, who I think is one of the great A&R persons, that one of the great ears of all time, and one of the great marketers of all time. He fashioned Jodeci and Mary J. Blige over at Uptown, and then he got booted. That should have been the end. It doesn't get bigger than Jodeci and Mary J. at that time. He said, no, hold my drink. I got Biggie, Craig Mack, they blew. Then he came with Total and Faith. And then Big passed. That should have been the end. But not only did he market himself, but then he went and found Mace and had more success. Then he found Black Rob. Whoa. And then the Sean John. And then the Ciroc. And then making the band. He went to reality TV and exploded. That's why I'm saying that I notice people. That's one of my markers is when you lose your big artist, what happens after that, if you're really that dope. I hope you guys are following what I mean by that. Um, let's see. LL did a pretty good interview on Old Klein. I'm not sure what that is. I think LL always does good interviews, like I said. I'm running my mouth now and I've fallen behind. Uh, oh, shoot. Soka says, Kenny, I'm from London, UK, and I was visiting family in Hollis, Queens last month. I found your book in the library. I was so happy, proud of you. Thank you so much. That is dope. That's dope. Thank you so much. My book in the library in Queens. That's really, really dope. That's dope. That made my day, Soka Samuel. Icon Poet says, I did security at a go-go show in Atlanta, and when them drums dropped, the crowd went crazy. Yeah, man. Yeah. DJ Green Hornet said, I'm not crazy about go-go music. Some of it is cool though. I don't understand it at all. I just like the react. I like crowd reaction. So whatever's going on that makes the crowd react, it perks me up. Like, what is this? I've seen go-go tear it down. I can't even lie. Tim Storm, Chris Rock said that about Shaq. Yeah, that was Chris Rock who said that, and he was correct. David also, Kenny, you don't eat red meat. What do you eat in place of it? Have you tried the plant-based stuff? I've tried all of it. Yeah, I eat a lot of plant-based, a lot of Morning Star, a lot of Boca products. Very processed, so I try to not to eat it as much. But yeah, a lot of fish. How can you call someone top tier if they can't do something difficult? Well, what do you mean by that? If you average if you average 25 points a game in the NBA, I don't care how you do it. If you average 25 points a game in the NBA, you are a great basketball player. If you're an all-star level player, that is very, very good. That is amazing. And then when you get up into the all NBA category, anybody that makes all NBA, especially first and second team, are really top tier. That for that 10 is really top tier. But I would say there's the top of the pile. And then there's like a one notch down. But that 10 is really top tier, y'all. Um, Shooting 50% as a guard, shooting guard is really that's what made Michael Jordan so great. We all watch the highlights. People don't realize the level of difficulty of the shots that Jordan took with the whole defense geared to stop you. Double team, triple team, Jordan rules, shooting down in the clutch, driving to the hole, zones, all of that. And he shot 50%. That means when Jordan shot the ball, no matter what he shot, there was a 50-50 chance it was going in. That's crazy numbers, y'all. In that era. In this era today, he probably shoots 60%. Dudes are coming off the bench signing for 25 mil a year. Yes, facts. That's the money, but that's because of TV. Not because they're that much better. That's because of TV. Do y'all remember when Magic Johnson got 1 million a year for 25 years? The Lakers signed him. It was a big, like their lifetime deal, 1 million for 25 years. It's crazy. I remember Larry Bird making 2 million a year. And I remember they said he didn't get paid in installments. He used to pick up his check one time at the end of the year. Give me my check, 2 million. I'll see you next year. Those guys were making 2 million a year. Even by today's standard, you're talking late 80s, early 90s, 2 million a year is probably like 6 or 7 right now, right? Probably like triple. Even that for Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, that's crazy. Remember, Jordan was making 30 million a year. He would sign 1 year deals, 30 million, and I'll decide if I'm coming back. 30 million a year for Mike at the end. There are dudes, like you said, coming off the bench that can make more than Jordan made in his prime. But TV is different, changed everything. Damon Dash is forever a cornball. I wouldn't call him a cornball. I don't know. That's harsh. You are seeing a man looking like at the end of the road, grasping for straws, trying to stay relevant and trying to make a buck when his heyday has passed. And it may look corny, but I look at it more as desperation. I don't know what's in his pocket, but I know if he's selling his percentages of Rockefeller for $1 million, 1.5. You could have half of the Rockefeller catalog. That means he's in trouble. And he owes the IRS all of that money anyway. He's financially in trouble. And I bet you it's very hard for him to get people on the phone. Can he find another great act? I don't even know how Dame and Jay-Z connected. Because I always hear about how Clark Kent, rest in peace, Clark Kent, was the one who stayed on Jay-Z, yo, stop selling drugs, rap, man, you're dope, stop selling drugs, rap, rap, rap. So I don't know where Dame Dash fits in, but that was a great partnership for him. Rosner Kenny, your sentiment reminds me of Joe and Michael Jackson. Yes. When it, while he deserves some credit, Michael would have gone so far if he didn't possess any raw talent. Michael wouldn't have gone so far if he didn't possess any raw talent. Mike had raw talent, and Joe Jackson was a slave driver. He worked all of them boys. And if they made one mistake, they would get disciplined. So, anybody who practices enough can become good at whatever they practice. Now, the thing was that Michael Jackson at 7, 8, 9 years old, you could tell there was something there. So much so that they started directing the whole group, and the whole resources of the family went into Michael Jackson at like 11, as they should have. Um, but after his kids all stepped off, and Janet was like, I'm out, I'm in control, and moved to Minneapolis and got with Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, and she went to the moon. Um, that's another one. How come Joe Jackson never managed anybody else? Um, I heard Dame Dash, to his credit, gave a lot of DJs payola. But I wouldn't say to his credit. I think payola helped ruin music and is illegal. But I don't know if he did or didn't. I'm not going to accuse him of doing something illegal. You go to jail for doing that. But I think payola is the reason why certain artists became bigger and certain artists didn't. Not about the music and how dope your music is. It's how much your record company is willing to spend. And that's whack to me. Does it take a genius to do what all these labels are doing anyway? No, not at all. I know some very successful music people that are not geniuses at all. Like I said in this channel before, you have a 10, 20% success rate makes you a mogul. If every 10 artists you put out, if one of them is successful, you are a mogul. There's nothing else on earth you could do with a 10, 20% success rate that would make you get fired and disgraced doing anything else in this world at a 20% rate except entertainment, movies, and music. Um, no, it doesn't take a genius to do what it does. The blueprint was set up back in the 40s and 50s. Once the blueprint was there, all you had to do was learn the blueprint of how to jerk people, and you're good to go. It's not even that hard. All the contracts are the same, cut and paste. I get everything, you get nothing. Sign, sign, sign. It's nothing. The real genius is defining great groups, diamonds in the rough. And that's why I always give Puffy credit. To see what he heard in its rawest form and see what it became once he cleaned it and polished it up, to me, that's dope. To see what Biggie was, and I've said on this channel, you guys that have seen my videos, I got, the KRS, I got two Biggie videos on here. I got KRS versus Biggie, and I got when Biggie gave me a challenge. He told me something, I didn't believe him. They're both on this channel, early videos that I did. But I say I like to say, when I met Biggie, he was not by any means a star. And you would not have predicted that based on what you saw and even what you heard. He was dope, but he wasn't like, to me, I didn't think Biggie was like, oh my God, this guy is the one. Like, I thought, look up in the sky, it's a bird, it's a plane. I thought that was a dope rhyme, but I didn't think it was like, stop the presses. I thought it was just like a dope rhyme. I thought Party and Bullshit was cool. It was a good record. Um, it didn't make me go like, what the hell? Like when I heard Nas live at the barbecue, that was like, what is this? Or even Das Effects. Or the first time I saw Tretch rap, he was with Queen Latifah. He wasn't even out yet, and I saw him rap, and I'm like, yo, what, yo? Um, I say all that to say, look what Puff had. I knew Craig Mack years before he signed the Bad Boy. I mentioned this before. Me, Craig Mack, and me and Craig Mack chilled in Biz's basement. Rest in peace to Biz. In 1990, and we sat there and listened to the whole America's Most Wanted album, Ice Cube. Me and Craig Mack, I just met him. He was a roadie for EPMD, and we just chilling in Biz's basement, loving his shit. And look what he became. These guys weren't models. They didn't look like um, Albie Shore or nothing. Look at Faith Evans, what she was when Puffy signed her, and look what she became. I give a lot of credit to that. That's just how I look at it. Um, T. Jackson says all those businesses you named hinged on Jay Z's coolness. Yes, different from Pepsi attaching itself to Madonna. Not really. These people are what they call them. Not movers and shakers. They are people that define the culture. That the culture follows them. I forgot the term that they use. Tastemakers. Tastemakers. Jay Z is a tastemaker. So, but he started his own companies based on, if I say Rockaway is dope and I wear it in the video, and you think everything I do is cool, then you'll do it. If I say this drink is dope and this is what we drinking now, you'll do it because I say so. That's dope. It's different than Pepsi is already an established company and they want more advertising. So you come to the biggest star in the world like Madonna and say, let's do a deal for you to advertise my product. Madonna doesn't own Pepsi. She didn't start Pepsi. Um, so yeah, it's different. But it did like, yeah, it did fringe on Jay's coolness, but Jay created the coolness and he created the company. You got to give Damon Dash some credit for that. I don't know. Dave also, Kenny, have you ever heard of Zakia Records? I heard that's who Rakim was with before Fourth and Broadway. Is that true? Yeah. Zakia Records. Matter of fact, KRS-One, Boogie Down Productions, almost signed to Zakia Records. I've mentioned, for those who have the book, KRS, before he came out, was doing some work with Cutmaster DC. Brooklyn's in the house, who was signed to Zakia Records. And Kristen Scott was trying to get a deal up there right around the time that Rakim did, but it didn't work out. But yeah, I'm very familiar with Zakia Records. They almost had Criminal Minded too. They almost had Rakim and KRS. Bebo says KP teaches us, then won't say the name. Yeah, some things I'm not gonna say the names of the people. I know the people, and you would know who I'm talking about. I don't want to, we don't disrespect on this channel, but I want y'all to hear the stories so you kind of understand um, these people's mindset. Let me scroll down a little bit. Suge Knight, next guest at Kenny Parker show. That'd be great. I would love to talk to Suge. Says been locked up most of the time. Suge was locked up a lot of the time, but I still say once Pac was gone, that was it. He was out of jail enough. He had Death Row had a whole bunch of artists. What happened? Rock Justice says being a bad businessman doesn't make you any less of a businessman. It just means you're an unsuccessful, ineffective one. So you're saying businessman is businessman no matter what you do, whether you're successful or not successful. Once you become a businessman, you are the title of a businessman. I could live with that definition. But you said being a bad businessman doesn't make you any less of a businessman. Nah, there has to be levels to this. Because that's what I'm saying. Being a bad basketball player doesn't make you any less of a basketball player. No, there's great basketball players and there's not great basketball players. Um, an unsuccessful, ineffective businessman will lose money. That's not good. That's not good. Denise says KP should use his muscle to get Mary and Jodeci. Yes, he did. To get them out of their deals. Ultimately, Mary and Jodeci never signed to Death Row, though. Um, that to me, that looks more like I'll get you out of your deal and I'll get you some more money. Cut me in. I know how to get money from these record guys by scaring them. Um, is that really a businessman or is that an extortionist? There's a bunch of dudes, for those that live in the hood, that know artists in the hood, that extort artists, that make artists pay for protection. Are they businessmen? Are they just thugs? And if you don't give me money, you're gonna have problems. That's called extortion, and people get years and years in jail for that. I don't respect that. T. Dyson says, let's look at Dame Dash's financial life after Jay-Z had crumbled. He got sued by everyone under the sun, and like you said, Dame now has to do interviews to make a living. That's unfortunate. And that's another thing, it's one thing to be able to earn money, but then there's another thing to be able to keep money. And these guys, when you're talking that kind of money, $100 million, you have to have financial advisors. There's no way, unless your financial advisors are bad and you make bad investments, you should not be able to blow all of that money. But it happens all the time. So there's something to that too. So um the thing, the problem is two things happen that cause people to mess up. One is you think the money's gonna keep coming. So you're living a lifestyle based on last year's money, but when the new product doesn't work and the money stops coming in, last year's bills continue and it drains your money. That and people borrow against money. You know, if you have $1 million, you can probably borrow 3 or 4 million against that million. But then when the money stops coming, now you owe. I'm no master of money. I'm not rich at all. But it seems like people make the same mistakes over and over and over and over. Why? Why, man? Scientific says Dame probably doing better than you think. Yeah, well, better than us. But at the same time, is it really better if you owe If you got $2 million in your pocket, but you owe three, are you doing better than me? That's a question. If you're liquidating all of your assets just to pay debt that you owe, that's not good. But Langer, I don't know what's in Dame Dash's pocket. I don't know the man at all. Deacon String says, "Yo, Kenny P, what's goody? I want to know what top 5 hip hop documentaries would you like to see get made?" Well, they've done just about all of them. There's a guy named Larry Smith, the first great super producer in hip hop. I would love, I know that somebody is working on it. I think my man Rashad Smith is working on it. I would love to see that documentary. Of course, Criminal Minded's 40th anniversary is coming up next year. I would love to see that documentary. I've seen pieces of it. Um, that would be dope. Hip hop, just about everything has been done. You know, my problem is though, there's always an agenda. And I hate when people do documentaries and they try to lead you in a direction that they want to lead you in. I don't like that. All of those like hip hop, VH1 hip hop and MTV history of hip hop, to me, those things be having agendas based on who's doing them. I would have to think about that on a documentary that has not been done in hip hop. They've covered a lot of topics, man. I'd have to think about that. He does this dude, Austin Reeves is not great. Come on, Kenny. Based on the numbers, Austin Reeves, before he got hurt, or did he got hurt? A third into the season last year, he was averaging 28, 5, and 5. 28. He came back and averaged about 23, 24. Even not at 100%, he averaged 23, 24 points a game. That is great, man. You think it's easy to average 24 points a game? In this day and age, the numbers are inflated. So I think 25 points a game now would probably be like 20 points a game in the 90s, in the 80s. You know how hard it is to score 20 points a game? That's why these guys are getting so much money. There ain't a bunch of them out there. Yeah, Austin Reeves, yo, when Luca was hurt, Austin Reeves dropping 50. I seen him score 50 last year, 51, 45, 40. That's ridiculous, man. He may not be a top 10 player, but I think Austin Reeves is in like a top 15 to 20 range. And like you said, the top 20 players in this league, you got to pay them. You can get Austin Reeves for 40 million. If Donovan Mitchell's getting 60 and his numbers are similar, Austin Reeves was, and Detroit was about to give him the max. That's why the Lakers had to pull the trigger, because somebody was about to give this dude a knot. I don't know, man. Young guy told me this generation of NBA players are much better than the players from the 80s and 90s, shaking my head. You can't argue with young dudes, man. I've decided I just can't argue anymore. When people talk about all time, that's the all time, and then they start in 1998 or 2000, especially with hip hop, the all time, and they start with 95. You can't have these arguments. Um, I think overall, I think the players now are overall more skilled than the players in the 80s and 90s, because the 80s and 90s have more specialized players for specialized positions. A center was a center that played around the basket. Now a center shoots three-pointers. So that's a different skill set. Point guard handled the ball, didn't even shoot that much in the 80s and 90s. Your point guard handled and got it to the shooting guard who took the shots. Power forwards hung out around the basket as well. Now there's positionless basketball where everybody is dribbling all over the place. So I think as far as ball handling, I think the average NBA player now is better than the average NBA player in the 90s as far as ball handling. I don't think the shooting is better. I don't think the defense is better. I don't think the rebounding is better. I don't think the basketball IQ is better. Athleticism might be slightly better because you have to play all over the court. Only thing I think this, like I said, only thing I think this generation is better at is ball handling overall. Forwards can handle the ball way better. A power forward in the 90s was Charles Oakley. A power forward now can handle the ball way better than Charles Oakley can. But he can't play D and rebound like Oakley can. I understand how hard it is to shoot over 50% as a guard. LeBron has done his whole career. That's where his greatness comes from. LeBron is not a guard. LeBron is a forward. LeBron has a power forward body and a guard's speed. He's probably the most athletic player of all time. LeBron takes most of his shots going towards the rim. That is different. I wouldn't put LeBron in that category. He's great, but he shoots over 50%, but he's not a guard. How far behind am I? Quite far. Rod Justice says wings humping up Liberty. Damn. Shout out to Paige Buckets. Um, John Morant on the Blazers. Maybe Dame Dollar can get him to act right. John Morant has probably like one. First of all, John Morant has probably lost hundreds of millions of dollars in his career, keeping it real. Between his suspensions, all of the games that he missed without pay, and all of the money that he should be a max contract player. Now nobody wants to give him money. He get wait and see money. He has probably lost. Sprewell lost a lot of money in his day. I think Ja Morant's behavior has probably cost him the most money maybe in NBA history is going to look like. Can Dame Dollar get him to act right? We'll see. This is it. This is it for Ja Morant to fix his image. Remember, they was trying to say he was potentially the face of the league. That stupid face of the league stuff. You know, I hate that. Ja should be getting money like Donovan Mitchell right now. It's a shame, man. Keeping it real. He's keeping it hood. No matter where I go, I keep it hood forever. That doesn't work, man, in real life. Let's see. Oh, thank you, Joey Joe. Dame Dash was Ski. I know Ski. That's my man. Rapper, producer, manager. And Clark Kent hooked Ski up with Jay for production. That's how they connected. Ah, so it was Clark Kent once again. Ah, so Dame Dash was managing Original Flavor. What was their name? Original Flavor. Can I get open? It's a jigga J, jigga J, G Z Z. Remember that? Shout out to Clark Kent, man. Yeah, that's Jack Swagger. What up? Says Dame managed original flavor. Can I get open? Featuring Jay-Z. They were signed by Clark Kent. That I think that's the connection. Definitely Kenny's question. Yeah. So Dame stumbled into Jay. And I mean, he didn't even discover Jay. Because I would say Mr. C and Kane really kind of discovered Jay, right? So that kind of takes away from Dame even more. Corey Flex says Joe Jackson had a girl group. MDLT Willis was the name. They were on Soul Train. Wow, Joe Jackson. Jack Swagger says 20% success rate, movies, music, and baseball. Even baseball, Jack Swagger, 20% is not, that's a 200 hitter. That ain't doing it. And they say the hardest thing in sports is to hit a baseball. A 200 hitter, even that is not good. Bebo says in baseball, a batting average of 200 is called the Mendoza line. That means that's the minimum. Okay. Okay, maybe you can survive as a 200 hitter. Boof Poof says in sports, hit 300 for 10 years in baseball, you're a Hall of Famer. Yeah, I've said that before on this channel. If you're 30% in baseball, you are a Hall of Famer. There's nothing else. Imagine getting on a plane and they say, we have a 30% chance of you getting to your destination. Oh, man. Sweet Goldilocks, what's up? I'm kind of far behind Sweet Goldilocks. I got to catch up. Um, and Delsa's KP, yo, I'm out with my granddaughter. Our birthday today. Oh, happy birthday to you and your granddaughter. Happy birthday to y'all from the Kenny Parker Show and the family. Shout out to your granddaughter. Spending time with the grandchildren is magic. That's dope. Well, I'm doing a lot of T. Dyson today. Dame Dash is such a bad businessman. I wouldn't say that. Puffy, a felon, has more homes and money in the bank than Dame, and Puffy still makes money even though he without an artist with a hit since 2000s. Yeah, because he has timeless artists who year after year after year after year catalog the Puffy catalog, Bad Boy catalog. Dame had a piece of catalog. He had a Rockefeller catalog, which was Reasonable Doubt, and he's trying to sell it. I'm not gonna call Dame Dash a bad businessman, and just because Puffy's a felon, they're all felons. That's my theme of this channel. All record company people are felons to me, but if not illegally, legal felons. But Dame Dash, I don't consider him a bad businessman. I almost consider him average. He's an average businessman who lost his product. Um, I'm gonna do a Benny Doyle scroll down right now. I'm gonna jump down a little bit. And Dale says Larry Love, BDP, and Grandmaster Flash documentary. They have bits and pieces of BDP stuff out there, but it's not good. Like I'm saying, the Criminal Minded that they're working on now. That should be dope next year because I've seen pieces of it. I'm in it. Um, I would like to do a BDP documentary. I think I would kill that. Um, Dame Dash likes to bluff. Good luck to him. But if you can't retain the crown jewels of your assets, then you can't be doing that well. Well, sometimes your crown jewels could be stolen from you. Sometimes you could create something and some sleight of hand, and we as black people know that very well in music industry. Sometimes a sleight of hand can cause you to lose your assets. Each case is different. Like I said, just owing taxes alone, just the act of not paying your taxes on time could cause you to lose everything. And you could be a great businessman. Let's see. Brooklyn Geek. Austin Reeves was the only bright spot aside from Luca before he got hurt. On the Lakers, bright spot. You know, it's a shame too with the Lakers because they just got rid of the whole team. They've completely revamped everybody. They made a decision. We're only keeping two players. Luca's already signed, Luca obviously, and Austin Reeves we're paying. Everybody else could go. LeBron, you could stay, but for cheap. Um, there's some players on that team that I liked. Um, I like Jackson Hayes in his role, um, backup center. I liked Luke Kennard. Sad to see him go. Bright spots. Yeah, I mean, maybe it was Austin. Yeah, I saw Austin Reeves give people buckets this year. That's why I don't know. I don't know if we remember in the same season. Being injured really hurt that Lakers team. Injuries really hurt them, man. Um, Richard said, "Nah, Austin Reeves can ball. Yeah, he can." T. Jackson says Austin Reeves was a walking dud in the playoffs, and no player can be considered great if they stink it up in the playoffs. See, first of all, I don't think he was a walking dud. I think he underachieved from his regular season average. And he came back from injury. He might not have been 100%, but he's had a history of not being big in certain moments in the playoffs. I don't know if he's the number one guy you need in the playoffs, but I think he's a very, very, very good number two. He's a great Robin to the Batman. And in spots, he could be Batman, but not for long periods of time. No player can be considered great if they stink it up in the playoffs. Well, then just look at this year. There's great players this year who had bad playoffs, like who I think is the best player in the league. The Joker did not play well in his playoffs. Ant-Man was not good in his playoffs. This year, SGA was okay. He was subpar, except for maybe the last game. Harden is a great player, terrible in the playoffs. Carmelo is not a great playoff performer to me. I can go down the list. Let's see this year again. I thought Wemby was not good against the Knicks. I think he had one great game, the game that Trump was at. What was that? Game 3, he was tough. I think he was not that great. He's considered a top 2 or 3 player in the league right now. If Wemby was up for a contract and they said, well, based on what Donovan Mitchell got, 60 to 80 million for 4 years, what would you give Wemby? It'd be 100 million. With everything we just saw, If you would say, who would we trade? Wemby wants to get traded. Who would we trade him for? Anybody in the league. They would trade right now one on one for who. I don't care who it is. They would trade for Wemby. He was not. I watched every Knick game. I watched some of the Spurs, but I watched every Knick game very closely, as you guys know. Shout out to the people who did the live watch with us on the channel. Wemby was not great, man. He was good. And he had moments, but if only the playoffs count, then Jimmy Butler is a top 5 player then. Right? Jimmy Butler and Jalen Brunson are really the 2 best players in the NBA. And of course, y'all know how I feel about my boy, Luka, who is second all time in scoring in the playoffs, only behind Jordan. Um, had he not hurt his hamstring, I think people was in for a real the role that they were on, that Lakers team, up until Luka pulled his hamstring against OKC. Luka and Austin Reeves got hurt that game, but Luka ripped his hamstring and ended the season. That run that they was on, the way Luka was playing at that moment, I think we was in for something special in the playoffs. But he got hurt. But I say all that to say, I look at everything, man. I just don't look at the playoffs. It's 9:31. We are in overtime. For those that's new to the channel, anything after 9:30 is considered OT. Um, this is the Kenny Parker Show. We do this every Tuesday and Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please hit the Tracy the thumbs up, Tracy thumbs up button. And big up to the Rewind crew who's going to check this out later on. Normally at this time, we scroll all the way down. I'm not that far behind, so I'm going to look at a couple of them. That guy in Miami scored 70 something and isn't even really good, much less great. He's not. He's good. Bam Adebayo was he a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year? And he rolls his scoring up. He gets about 20 a game and is an elite defender. That's really good. I wouldn't say he's great, but he's really, really good. I mean, he's good. He's a good player, man. You would love him on your team. I just guess we have a different definition of what's good and what isn't. FU2 says 33 players average over 20 points per game, the most I've ever seen. Yeah, the numbers all the numbers are inflated right now because of the rule changes made it easier to score. That's why I think everything is probably 5 to 6 points more than what it was historically. 25 a game is probably like 20. But that's a lot. 33 players average over 20 points a game. And all of them are going to get at least 40 a year. Some of them are going to get the max. Let's see. Let me scroll down. Jumping a bunch of you guys' comments. Let's see. Sandwich Bay says not paying taxes or child support can lead to significant financial loss. First of all, having child support as a rich person is going to devastate you. The government's taking, if your baby mama take you to court, what are they taking? 17% of what you earn? I guess it's different if you have multiple children, but what are they taking? 17%? You got women out here getting 15, 20,000 a month because they have somebody's child and they're saying they can't live off of that. I can't live off of 20,000 a month. I need a raise. Crazy. Bebo said Rui signed the Clippers. I was sad to see Rui go, but Rui was a one-dimensional player. Rui would have been great in the 90s and the 80s. He did one thing really, really well: shoot the three-point shot. He did not play defense that well. He did not rebound at all. But man, he could shoot that rock. And in playoffs, in the clutch. What do you think about Drewski as Joe Jackson? That was too funny. I didn't see it. I only saw the highlights. I saw Janet Jackson was very upset. And Janet Jackson never says anything controversial. And she came out completely condemning that, talking about how she had to sit there and watch that horrible thing. And I love Janet Jackson. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna say if Janet didn't think it was funny, then it wasn't funny. Patrick McLean, what up? KP, when Cam said he's VP of Rockefeller, that's when Jay wanted to end the partnership. A lot of people say that when Dane made Cameron vice president of Rockefeller without even consulting Jay-Z. I don't even know if it was Cam that was the problem. It was the fact that you feel you can make somebody a boss in this without talking to me. That's the problem. Jay was ready to go. Plus, there's people in Jay's ear, too. Um, Patrick, wow, what up? Patrick White says, I saw Tim Hardaway saying something like he saw Chris Mullin shoot for about an hour without missing. That's crazy. My new criteria for best shooter, you must be able to be all-time top free throw shooter. Curry, number one. Curry is the best shooter of all time. And it's like I said on the show, I was fighting that for a long time. And I fought that, but I've come around. Mullin is one of the greatest shooters I've ever seen. I was watching this old documentary on YouTube about the crossover and who had the nicest crossovers, and they was trying to trace it back to where it came from. And they had Allen Iverson. He said he got the crossover from his man at Georgetown. And they had this one and that one, and these people were like, well, we watched Tim Hardaway. Then they asked Tim Hardaway, where'd you get the crossover from? And he said Pearl Washington was the guy. And I've always said that on this channel. And for those that have my book, my Pearl Washington story. Um, you just mentioned to me, Pearl Washington revolutionized ball handling as we know it today. And most people don't even know who he is now. Shout out to the Pearl. Brooklyn, Brooklyn. Patrick McLean said, I would pass on Wemby. You can't pass on Wemby. I don't like Wemby at all after watching him play against the Knicks, but you cannot pass on him. He's 22, MVP candidate at 7'4". That means if he just stays at this level, this is the best he will ever be right now. He will be, and his defense as a defender is scary. But if he just stays at this level, he will be a MVP candidate for like the next 10 years. If he gets any better than what he is now, it's MVP. This much better for Wemby is best in the league. You have to take that chance. I think. Kenny Parker, did you ever hang out with the Paid in Full posse? I've told a story on this channel years ago about one of the guys on the back. I'm calling the Paid in Full Posse the guys on the back of the Eric B. and Rakim album, first album, which was like a who's who of crime in New York City. There's some legendary dudes on the back of that album. I was cool with one of them on the back. I'm not going to say who it was. And I've seen him. Maybe I should tell the story again right now for those that didn't hear the story. One of the guys on the back of that album, actually, I got a story about two of them, but I'm going to save one. One of the guys on the back of that album, I was cool with. And I was at a club, of course, and I was outside of this club. I forgot who I was with, a couple of dudes. I might have been by myself, but I was talking to somebody. There's a bunch of people outside. And this one dude looked like he was drunk. And he was just mouthing off, just talking about random rappers. And he was just going down the list, just dissing rappers. F this person, F this person, F that person. I don't care about none of them. F this person. And then he said, F Rakim. By the time he got the Kim, the M in Rakim, out his mouth, this dude that's on the back of this album came out of nowhere and caught him. Bow! I was standing right there, it was literally 5 feet away from me. Caught this dude, bow, knocked him on the floor. Dude got up crying and screaming, oh! He ran down the block. And I saw the dude. And I said, yo, what's up? And he's like, yo, what's up, Kenny? He's like, yo, I was just waiting for him to say rock him. I was like, yo. But he didn't even know this dude, but he was just like, whatever. You say rock him out your mouth, it's over. And he was dead serious. That is one of the guys who on the back in the Paid in Full Posse. I'd have been cool with like one or two others. And there's one I have a story about, but I'm gonna save that for another time. Some things you just can't be talking about. My man Jetta always tells me to stop snitching. Shout out to Jetta. Don't be, he always on me about watch what you say on social media. So I got to be careful about some of the things I say. That's why I tell you guys, sometimes I tell a story, but I don't say who it is. But I want you guys to hear the story because I want you to get a feel of what was going on. But I don't want to say who it was. So for those of you that get frustrated when I don't say the names, sorry. When I tell you I can't say who it was, trust me, I'm not going to say who it was. But I can tell you what I saw. One of the guys on the back of that album was real. All of them were real, but this particular one, Patrick Wise says people always praise Oakley for his rebounding and hustle, but I've seen Oak make a great play and right after that make a boneheaded play like a behind the back pass to no one. Yes, I've seen that too. Jack Swag says Wemby is like early Jordan or early LeBron, a work in progress. His time will come though. Yes, we a lot of Wemby's aura is off his potential, but it remains to be seen. I think it's his mindset. He wants to be a guard so bad. If he chose to be a big man, there's nothing anyone can do. He limits himself. I said at the beginning of this year, and then he switched up. I think he heard me. I always say, then he started going crazy, and then he reverted back to being a guard, and that's why they lost to the Knicks. Lakers ain't doing nada with that squad. I 100% disagree, and let's catch up in January. I think people, first of all, everybody was complaining about the Lakers team was so flawed last year. And then when they get rid of these guys for more athletic guys, then people complain about that too. And I think people are really underestimating one, how good Luka Doncic is, and two, how well Luka and Austin Reeves played together. I don't think, if you're not a Laker fan, I don't think you remember LeBron was hurt for the first 20 games of the season. In them 20 games, Luke and Austin Reeves was averaging like 60, more than 60. They was averaging about, yeah, about 62, 63 points a game between the two of them for like 20 games. And the Lakers were like 15-4, 15-5, something crazy like that. They were the 2 seed. I think people are really underestimating how much offense can be generated on that team. And you put a rim protector there. Let's see. Let's pick this up vibe. Let's pick this up in January. We're in overtime, y'all. This is the Kenny Parker Show. Scientific says maybe he'll be Yao Ming. He's already better than Yao. He's already at 22. Wemby right now at 22 is better than Yao, y'all. If this is the best he will ever be right now, it's still scary times for the next 10 years at least. Let me scroll down a little more. Corey Flood says Knicks won't repeat his championship. How do you know that? Based on what? Are these other teams really that much better? I don't know about that. See, you sound like Stephen A, Corey Flood. No way will the Knicks repeat. See, I don't think there's no way you could say anything. You could say it's going to be difficult. You could say some other teams got better. But to say no way, there was no way OKC wasn't going to be back to back. They were on their way to 70 wins this year. They were unbeatable at the beginning of the season. There's no way. They didn't even make it out the West. There was no way the Knicks were going to beat San Antonio. No way. Rich Shot says, not to hate on the Knicks, but I don't see a repeat. Why not? I think they got as good a shot as anybody else. Who in the East is really that much better? I think Philly is scary because of what they added, but can you trust Joel Embiid? I'm not scared of Cleveland, Detroit. Miami looks interesting with Giannis. There's some teams that's right there, but I just say there's no way they're gonna win. Why not? The Knicks dominated the playoffs, y'all. I think, and I said this at the beginning of the championship. I said the way the Knicks are playing right now, they would beat anybody in the league. I stand by that. Sweet Goldilocks says Janet Jackson was AI. That wasn't real. Janet's rebuttal. Oh wow. Then I'm wrong. I've never heard Janet Jackson respond to anything. That's why I was like, wow. That looked like an AI Janet response to me. And I am wrong. If that was AI, and it probably was, I am wrong. I don't, first of all, I don't find a lot of things funny, man. I'm not one of them people who like would be in a roast or like, I don't like comedians who like attack people in the crowd. A few years back, I used to DJ in a club in Brooklyn. They had like a comedy night. I used to DJ it before the music started, which was me. There was a comedy show before that with a lot of low budget comedians. But I used to DJ the music in between the comedians, and I just sit there and watch comedians with no material just try to go in on people in the crowd, which I always thought was whack. And a couple of times the comedians like tried to turn on me, like, and the DJ. And I'd be like, yo, turn your ass around. I'm not that dude. I've gotten a couple of, I'm not going to use the word altercations, confrontations with comedians. I'm not part of your act, bro. Do your jokes that way. I'm behind you, DJing. Go point that way. And I remember one comedian was trying to be funny. And I just started the music in the middle of his set. Well, that's the end of your act. What you gonna do? And I say all that to say I'm not a big fan of people disrespecting people. I don't like any form of disrespect coming my way. So some things that's funny, I don't think is funny. Maybe it's funny to other people. Mm-mm, mm-mm. Let's see. B-Ball says Shamgar. That is random. But Shamgar, Pearl was before Shamgar. Um, Tim Hardaway said out his mouth, I saw Pearl Washington do the crossover, and that's when I started doing it. Kenny, didn't Pearl Washington have you on the nightly news? Y'all got to get the book to find the answer. Let's see. I'm not that far behind. We're in OT, y'all. Corey Flood, Wemby has emerged as one of the all-time great villains, NBA villains. I wouldn't say he's all-time, but he's going in that direction. There's been some real villains, man. Hated by everybody except the team that they played for, like a Rodman. Actually, LeBron is one of the all-time great villains. Dartmouth, how can any of you consider Nas, Jay-Z, Puffy, Dame to be hip hop? They're Hollywood types who are tied to the upper structures of society. Hip hop is counterculture, not meant for common people. I think hip hop is meant for everybody, Dartmouth. Um, I consider Nas, Jay Z, Puffy, Dame, I consider all of that hip hop. That's just my opinion. McLean said, was it 50? I'm not going to say who it was. The original 50 Cent is on the back of that album, that Paid in Full album. There's a few people on the back of that album that's very scary, y'all. Very scary. If you know New York history, isn't Rich Porter on the back of that album? Crazy. Crazy. You run up on Rakim if you want to. Dude's talking about this person wanted to battle Ra and that person. You run up on Rakim if you want to, thinking it's about lyrics. You've been so sad. Norman Raider says, how do you rate Nate Dogg? I love Nate Dogg. And the hooks, I think as far as hip hop hooks, for a non, I mean, Nate Dogg might be the hip hop hook goat. Mary sung some great on some great records. Mary was on some big hip hop songs, but I think Nate Dogg is that dude. I loved Nate Dogg. Never met him. Patrick Wise says Kobe's father asked guard Shamgar to teach Kobe dribbling skills while at McDonald's game, and Shamgar eventually taught Gigi, Kobe's daughter, the same thing. Um, Sham and Kobe were tight since high school. Imagine being alive and having a dribble named after you. That must be so crazy to be like the sham god and everybody knows what you're talking about. That is crazy. Or the Smitty. Remember the Smitty? Um, when he does like the half spin, the Smitty was crazy too. For those that know basketball, I'm trying to think of who else is like has a move named after them and they're alive. I mean, there's a sky hook. Um, that's crazy. I'm trying to think. That would be that's. Spencer says dissing Rakim is crack baby stuff. There's people diss. I've seen Rakim in this past month. I've seen Rakim, Kane, and KRS get dissed by younger artists. It's crazy. We're in OT, y'all. We got a few more minutes left. I'm gonna jump off. Wasn't the real 50 Cent on the back of the album, Kenny? Yup. One man crime spree. Um, Let's see. I thought this was funny. Snow Time Lakers. I thought that was funny. I saw that a few days ago. Yao was very disappointing, but very good. Yao was a finesse big man. I don't know. I'm not disrespecting Yao. Maybe I am. I don't know how he's a Hall of Famer. Hall of Famer? Yao was good for a few years, but a Hall of Famer? The East is overlooked. Yes, they were overlooked last year until they blew everybody out. Um, Drewski is a different kind of comedian, new school. Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of a lot of these guys. I just don't think it's funny. Me, I have a different sense of humor. Yeah, Jack Swagger says, Kenny, you told us never trust what you see online. Don't get got. I think I got with Janet Jackson. The more you think about it, because like I said, she never said nothing in her whole career. Um, Cindy says, don't F with the DJ. Don't. Why would you F with the DJ? Plus, I'm the type of person, I'm not bothering you. Why are you? Where's your material? That's how I gauge a whack comedian. If you got to go around the room picking on people, that means you don't have any material. Now, sometimes a heckler in the crowd, the comedian's doing his show, and a heckler will say something, and then a comedian stops his show and rips a heckler. They deserve that. But I've seen people just go in saying horrific things about people, saying things about people's girls while they there, just crazy. And then when somebody in the crowd run up on you, then you be like, security. Not me. D says, KP, you talking about Supreme Magnetic's brother Rap, who knocked that dude out for disrespecting Rakim. I'm not gonna say who I'm talking about. Um, he's another dangerous person on the back of that album. Um, we're almost done, y'all. We're in OT. Hip hop is not for everyone. I think music is for everyone. Anyone can listen to anything they want to. I don't think there should be gatekeepers telling people what they should listen to. If you want to listen to hip hop, you should. If you want to listen to hip hop today and country western tomorrow, that's on you. That's how I see it. Jack Swagger says, at Dartmouth, who made you the gatekeeper? I mean, everybody has a right to their opinion, Jack Swagger. I mean, some people just don't like anything commercial. Let me go to the bottom. DZ says, Capri, was this Supreme Magnetic's brother rap? He was a terror. And Supreme Magnetic was a terror too. There was a few terrors on the back of that album. A few. Shout out to G Rappers on the back of that album too. I could have been talking about Cool G Rap. No, let me not start. I was not talking about Cool G Rap. Oh. Hype style, Kenny, WNBA update. Dallas Wings beating Liberty 79-68, 3:45 left in the fourth. It might be over. Liberty are struggling, man. You also Kennedy Carter got cut today. Wow. T. Dyson says the short answer, Kenny, is Yao Ming is from China and the NBA wanted to appease China. That's exactly what it is. But I agree with you. Yao isn't a Hall of Fame. If he was, Brad Doherty should be in a Hall of Fame. 100% I agree with all of that. I'm in the minority, but I don't rock with Janet like that. That's fine. You have every right. It's 10 o'clock, y'all. I'm about to jump off. Let me make sure I got everything, all the chats. I'm going to go to the very, very bottom. I'm having a good time, y'all. I don't really want to jump off, but it's 2 hours in. Rich, hell yeah, 2 hour show, KP. We're 2 hours in right now. KP, Bumpy Knuckles is on that Paid in Full album cover. I don't think Bumpy's on that album cover. Shout out to Bumpy, who was a guest on this channel. I don't think Bumpy is on that album cover. The back. Bumpy's the real deal too, y'all. Shout out to Bumpy. Oh, real quick, remind you guys, there will be an epic fail dropping tomorrow. So look out for that. Henry Still says, I can't stand commercial rap either. I hate the radio. Cool C went out the backwards. Went out backwards. Yeah, Cool C was about as commercial as it was and was one of the realest. Well, realest as far as crime. I don't think that was a great decision. That was a horrific decision, what they did. Cost somebody their life. Maceo says he's working on a new Bumpy album. That would be dope. That would be dope. We're way past 2 hours. I'm just looking at the last comments, y'all, before I jump off. Um, uh, Spook Worm at Dartmouth. Can you name any DJ or MC who came out and said that hip hop rap was only for one group of people? I think you really misunderstand the origins of hip hop and rap. I might have to concur. I might have to concur. I mean, you have, yeah, we respect all opinions on this channel. I just don't think that music should be for one group of people only, or one style of music is all it should be. I want to hear everything. I want to hear the most underground record ever, and I want to hear the most commercial record ever, and see if and everything in between. Kenny, the gong on Epic Fails, where's that from? I can't remember where. I found that somewhere online and I like the sound of it. Thank you, KP, for a great show. Thank you for listening, man. Thank everybody for listening to the Kenny Parker Show. Um, thank you. KP, have you heard Rakim's son? No. He's rapping now. He's not dope, but he's nice. That's a tough act to follow, man. Being Rakim's son, man, in rap, that's like being Jordan's son playing ball, or even LeBron's son. That's tough. Some racist people think country music is only for white people. Yep. And I think that's wrong. Denizzy, KP, this is such a popping show. Thank you so much. I should leave it on that note. Leave before, leave on a high note. Leave before you get kicked off, right? All right. I'm out of here. Close this down. All right, y'all. Next week, not next week. Today is Tuesday. Friday, God willing, we will all be here. Please look out for the epic fail tomorrow. All right. Peace.